In our year-long Rainmaker Mastermind, where we walk moms through how to not only get time, but financial freedom, we have daily coaching every single day. And twice a month, Stephen actually comes in and does super high-level mindset training. And in the last couple of weeks, he has done some incredible training that I want to present to you because I think it's going to inspire you and leave you encouraged. I'm about to give you a backstage pass into a training Stephen did all about time travel. I know time travel, when I say that, it sounds a little bit weird, but just trust me, if you've ever had any interest in rewinding the clock or using time to your advantage, this podcast episode is for you.
We call this time traveling, okay? Time traveling. So we talked really in depth in this in Mexico, but I want to give you kind of like the TED Talk version of it, if I can, just to empower you with this technique. Like I feel like when I learned this, it was so powerful to use in my daily life because it's so easy to get outside of it. Like even today, like I said, I didn't sleep at all the night before we traveled because Ollie he got sick on the last night. And so I was just up with him all night and I was like, Chelsea, you sleep. We got to wake up at 5 a.m. Like, I'll stay up with Ollie. So I was up with him and then we had this like big long travel day. So like everything in me was like, hey, cancel the stuff today. Like don't do anything. Like don't show up for this call. But I really felt like even this concept I'm about to teach you, it really was encouraging me to show up today and not in a way to like strive and overextend myself. Like I am definitely going to rest. But there was something about like this technique I want to show you that really encouraged me to go, hey, show up today. Get your notebook. Like I brought my little notebook to Mexico. So get your notebook, get a piece of paper, your digital equivalent, wherever you like to take notes, because we're going to go through this really quick. So it was Halloween recently. We like weren't sure if Kaizen would even want to go trick-or-treating. I mean, like he's 2 years old. So I don't even know like he knows the concept, but I was like, let's just like get him some candy, just like so he can, experience that. Okay. So he doesn't have candy like really ever. But we got some like gummy bears, and I think the night before he had like a few gummy bears and then he went to bed and then like it was the next morning and we left the gummy bears out like on the counter somewhere, right? It was like not prominently on the counter, but they were over there. And I brought Kaizen down for breakfast. Usually I wake up in the morning. Chelsea sleeps in with the baby just a little bit. I'll wake up when Kai wakes up. I'll take him downstairs and I'll like make him oatmeal and like we'll do our thing in the morning, right? Together. And so we're down there, I'm making oatmeal for him. And of course, like any good toddler, he spots the candy from like across the room. He like sees the candy. He's like, he wants the gummy bears, right? He really wants the gummy bears. And so I'm like, okay, like, sure, you can have a gummy bear, but then, I'll give you one, but then I'm putting the rest away, right? Like, because they shouldn't even be out. And so I give Kai one gummy bear and I tell him I'm gonna put the rest away. Guess what Kai did next? Okay. So like I give him one gummy bear, I tell him I'm gonna put the rest away in the closet here. Guess what Kai did next as a good 2-year-old would, right? So as soon as I gave him a gummy bear and I went to go put the others away and told him I was putting the others away, he immediately just like wanted more, right? He just like freaked out, wanted more, and he started crying, wanted more. While he's crying, he's also eating the gummy bear, right? He's like he's throwing the gummy around, but he's like freaking out. He wants the other, he wants more, right? So he tasted it, he saw it was good, right? These are all human desires, right? I'm not making fun of like a 2-year-old, right? But I bring this up because this is one of the core concepts that we teach in Rainmakers with a lot of different things. And it is this, like, what you focus on will multiply, right? Will multiply. And there's like a famous verse that says, those who have will have more in abundance. Those who have not, right, lack, that will be taken away, right? And so Kai, he got one gummy bear, right? But then he immediately started focusing on what he didn't have, the thing that was going away. And focusing on the thing he didn't have took away the experience that he was having. I don't even think he realized he was eating a gummy bear or he wasn't even enjoying the gummy bear because he's so focused on what he didn't have. So that focus on the lack even takes away the thing you have. It's a very simple concept, but it's so powerful. It can apply to your business, your life, your marriage, all these different things. And Kai, as a 2-year-old, I was seeing this happen. Like I was reminded of that because it's so tempting to focus on we don't have. Like when I was up with Ollie, all night while he was honestly like kind of sick, the last night in Mexico, he kind of got this like weird like sniffle thing, and he was just like didn't he was like in discomfort. And we're in Mexico, like we had like some like Tylenol, we didn't have like much stuff. But I pretty much just like held him and like sat with him, and like we slept here and there, but for the most part we were up. And I just had to do this like all night because it's like, yes, I can focus on the lack of sleep and focus on we're getting up at 5 a.m. for a flight and all these things, or I can really focus on the abundance, like what I do have, you know, and I start shifting this thing in the right direction. And I truly believe when you do that, you will have more in abundance. And honestly, I don't like when we woke up at when I woke up at 5 a.m. and had to travel all day, I never once felt tired until we got home at like 9 p.m. and I crashed, right? And now I'm feeling a little bit tired, but like there's something almost supernatural about that of just leaning into what I had and just actually being grateful and enjoying it. And it gave me energy. And so in Mexico, with our inner circle group, we really talked about this concept of the gap and the gain. There's another way to say the lack versus abundance thing, but I like the way to say it this way. It just kind of is sticky. Okay. Gap and the gain. And I talked about this before in this group on, I think it was a Make It Rain call. And because I read this book, The Gap and the Gain, and it was so powerful. I was like, man, this concept is super powerful. Let's just talk about Amazon for a second, because we're in an Amazon group. And like, let's say you really want to win or earn, I should say, like the 6-figure family award. Okay. So it looks like this, and there's like a thing, and it's like, you made 6 figures. Okay. So let's say you like really want that 6-figure family award hanging on your wall. You could focus on not having that, right? You could focus on like not being there yet. And that is the gap. Like you're like, yes, this is an awesome goal to have. But if you focus on, oh, you know what? But I haven't found my product yet. And I haven't done this yet. And I haven't done this yet. I haven't done this yet. Right. You get in this gap of like, it feels far away because you're focusing on all things you don't have. Okay. You're focusing on the lack. Okay. And when you do this, it actually slows you down, it slows your momentum. But the one thing you can do to shift this is you start focusing on your gain. This is where you start focusing on all the things that you did to get to where you are now, right? You're like, man, I went through this wall and I did that. And okay, I clicked on this thing and I went through that thing. And like, you just start focusing on all the things you have, abundance, right? To get you to where you are today. And so we can do this with ourselves. We can do this with our kids. Okay. I'm just going to use potty training terms because we're in that season. Okay. Every time he tries to go to the potty, number 2, he goes in his pants. Okay. And I could focus on this thing, right? It's like, it's frustrating, right? Or I could focus on, man, look how far you've come. I like, man, every time you are going number 1, it's going in the toilet. All right. So you can do this with your kids. You can do this with your spouse. You can do this with partners. You can do this with yourself. Okay. Focusing on the gain of where they've come from, and how much how much gain has happened, how much abundance there is, how much you have, instead of what lacks. Right. And momentum really can come from this or can stall from this, because just like I said, that verse, those who have, that's so focus on the have, will have more in abundance. Those who have not, will be taken away. With like the example of Kyle, the gummy bear, I wasn't planning on giving him more. I wasn't even planning on giving him any, I thought it was nice just to give him one. I shouldn't even give him one. If he was like, hey, I give him a gummy bear and he was just like really enjoying it and just like smiling, Daddy, I love you. Thank you so much for this gummy bear. It's the best gummy bear in my life. Maybe I would have given him one more because it feels good, to be appreciated and to be like, wow, he focused on what he had. Right. But crying for more, it made me want to just like, I regretted even giving him the one. Right. Now we can't judge the 2-year-old, but I'm just using that as like just a really easy example because we act like 2-year-olds all the time in our life. We focus on the gap, we focus on what we don't have, and we like spiral around it sometimes. And so we really hit this topic really hard with our inner circle group in Mexico, this gap and the gain. And we taught them a couple things. And so I'm going to go through those with you real quick. I was listening to, I think it was Tony Robbins, who was talking about gratefulness. And he was talking about gratefulness and how people, being in gratefulness really will it'll change it'll literally change your brain waves. Like, so your brain waves and your heart waves kind of will go at different waves. When you enter into gratefulness and gratitude, even for just like 2 minutes, it'll actually like align the two. And it really brings like a level of peace to any situation. And so the first thing we were teaching our inner circle members was really just like how you could shift any situation. Because, life comes up, family comes up. I mean, it's like, right, like you never know what's going to happen. It's really important to be a powerful person, that knows how to control our state. And so this is one of those ways is actually getting into the gain. I would love to do just like a 2-minute exercise with you just so you can experience this. Okay. So what I want you to do is close your eyes. I want you to just like look back a little bit. Okay. I want you to just look back a little bit. Turn the music down just a little bit. Look back a little bit on your life. You joined this mastermind. Maybe you've been in this group for a little bit. Maybe you just joined. But look back a little bit, like all the things you went through to get to even here today. All the stuff happening right now with Amazon, with your business, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. Let it fade away. We're going to look back because the things you overcame to get here today are so powerful. So I just want you to reflect for a second. Okay. Why don't you reflect on like a moment you just really overcame something in your life that came up. It was a big wall. Maybe it's business related. Maybe it was relationship related, but it was a big wall that came up. You overcame that thing. Who you became to overcome that thing is so powerful. Now I want you to look back and reflect on something that felt like a very beautiful moment in your life. It was laying the baby on your chest after birth. You know, it was holding hands with your spouse and saying those vows. What was that beautiful moment for you that you reflect back on? And one more minute. I want you to think of a moment in the past when someone was especially kind to you. It was just kind of out of nowhere or was like surprisingly kind, and it left an impact on you. Okay, lastly, I want you to just reflect back on maybe a holy moment, something that just felt like so divine, the timing of that thing, whatever that was for you. It just makes you so grateful. Okay, 30 more seconds. Just cycle through these moments that came back up in your head. And I just want you to really just lastly, just feel those things, okay? Just feel those things, how it felt in those moments, the emotions you're feeling in those moments, those feelings. Just make it real right now, like it was back then. 2-minute exercise. Okay, 2-minute exercise. Now, if you chose to join us in that, you probably felt something. Okay, you probably felt a little bit of a shift. Okay, you probably felt an atmosphere change, right? Things going on in your life didn't seem to matter as much right now because you're like gotten to that gratefulness. Now, those things, they do matter. Life happens and it needs you to deal with it, but dealing with it as a powerful person instead of someone who's just like reacting is huge. And it was so cool. Belma, she's in our inner circle group. She was sharing that like over the last 30 days, she's like, this is so crazy because literally over the last 30 days, I've been doing this exercise. Like she didn't know about this. Like it was just like an alignment, right? So over the last 30 days, I've been doing this exercise every day, just 2 minutes a day. I'll just reflect back and I'll just get into gratefulness, get into the gain, get into that state that you guys are feeling right now. And she said, it's completely changed my life. Like her thoughts are different, how she acts are different, like where she's going in life and business and all these things are different because of just this thing, getting into that mindset, that state. So we kind of traveled back in time a little bit. The next thing is really called you're activating your future self now. I guess we could call it activating your future self now. So both these concepts, again, like they're from like many people in many different ways have said these things, but why I've been talking about these a lot is because these two books. So if you want some good books to read, Gap in the Gain is one that talks a lot about this concept of the gap in the gain. And then this next one is called Be Your Future Self Now. Both of these by the same author, Benjamin Hardy. And this concept is just like, it's very similar to the gap in the gain, but it's about kind of looking at that future person. So let's say you're here, this is you now, and this is you 10 years from now, right? Looking at this future self, but then kind of also the reverse, like looking back from the future self to now. And so, like, when we set goals and we set, like, here's where I'm going with Amazon, here's where I'm going in life, here's like this bigger vision of my life or this bigger thing I want to step into, like, we have all these goals, right? And you guys can vision. I would encourage you to envision these goals and to start rehearsing them, right? But one really powerful thing you can do, even if you're not 100% sure who that future self or like what it's going to be, like it might be more than you could hope or expect. Like your Amazon business could be bigger than ever. You might be doing something completely different. You might be in real estate. Like who knows what that future self is going to be doing 5, 10, 20 years from now, right? But one thing we can do is we can take a look from that future self back to now. And I know it sounds weird, but like, let me just share a story of how this works. Our 2-year-old Kaizen, we like to get haircuts together. It's kind of like another thing we do together. It's just me and him. Usually we go out and get haircuts at this place. And we've been doing that for like, I don't know, a year and a half now. It's kind of like our thing, he gets really excited about it. He loves his haircuts. Like he's not one of those kids that like hates a haircut. He like loves it. He like looks forward to it. And this is the one time he gets candy. So I think that's probably also helps because like at the haircut place after you get a haircut, you get like a sticker and like a lollipop. And so he just like loves that. Right. So we were coming back from a haircut. This is like just like 2 weeks ago. And I was listening to this book again in preparation for the Inner Circle event. So I was like listening to the book again. I already finished it, but I was like just listening to it again. Benjamin Hardy, the author, tells this story. And he says like, every night he would come home from work. And at the time he was working outside of the home and he'd come home and like, his wife would be like making dinner. Kids are running all over the place. I think he had 3 kids at the time. And like he would often come home kind of just like stressed from work, or he'd bring like kind of work in with him, or he would just be super tired and he wouldn't like show up fully, all the time. And as he was doing like all this research on this future self stuff, he was like, I'm gonna try this experiment, right? I'm gonna try this experiment. And I think for him, he kind of did I think he did 20 years. So he basically what he did, he drove home, he's about to walk in the house. And he decided, okay, when I walk in the house tonight, I'm not going to walk in as Benjamin Hardy, okay, right now. I'm going to walk in as me 20 years from now, okay? So I am going to just like, if like, let's just say 20 years from now, like for him, his kids would be 25, 27, and 28 years old, okay? They're off to college, one's married. Like he's just like envisioning this, right, in the future. How would that Benjamin walk in the door now? If that Benjamin could come back to this moment of walking the door and have this evening with his kids again in this age, like how would he walk in the door? And so he does this. He walks in and it changes everything for him. It changes everything, the way he's interacting with them. And so I'm literally listening to this and I'm like, sometimes you're listening to a book, you just like got to pause it. And, I just paused and I was like, I need to like do this right now. So we're driving in the car. Kaizen's in the back. He has his lollipop. He's just like licking his lollipop from his haircut. We're going home from the haircuts. And I just look back at him and I just start doing this. Like, I'm like, okay, Steven, 20 years from now, right? Like Kaizen is 22 years old. Okay. Like he's, what is that? Like, just out of, I mean, who knows if he's going to college 20 years from now? Who knows what college will be? But like, he's in that age, he's not living at home. I don't know. He's like, he's working, he's an entrepreneur. I don't know what he is, right? But like, I definitely don't have as much time with him then as I do now. Driving in the car, him licking his lollipop, like even him driving in the car with me when he's 22, 23 years old, that's probably not even going to happen that frequently. And so I look back in like the little mirror and he's at his little mirror so I can see him. And I just am enjoying him. I'm just like watching him enjoy the lollipop. And I'm just grateful, right? Like if future self, Steven could come back to this moment, like I think the biggest thing you do is just be so grateful for this moment. So I just started entering into that and really just shifted things. I was thinking about other stuff and like that really shifted things. And then I spoke to Kaizen from that future self, right? And I just said, hey, buddy, like, I love you, and I really meant it. It had some, I mean, like you say, I love you kind of, and, it just becomes a thing that you say. but like it had weight to it because it was not just Steven speaking, it was Steven in the future speaking. Like, I love you. I love you. I love this moment. I love you. And I teared up in Mexico when I shared this story because Kaizen said back to me, I love you too. And it was such a powerful thing. Like, I mean, he's 2 years old. He doesn't really do that. Say, I love you too. Like, I don't even know how he learned to say that. I mean, maybe you heard me and Chelsea saying that or something, but it was just like one of those moments that just hit me so powerfully. And he has no idea. He's just licking the lollipop and having the time of his life. But for me, it turned this mundane car ride into something so much more powerful. Right. And so I shared the story in Mexico and I encourage our people who are there, like, let's do this. Let's go to the future. Let's look back now, you know? And so I'd love to do that with you guys. And because there could be some things for you, you know, like in this, some gold for you in this, you know? And so I'll play one more song here. We'll do a quick, one last exercise. I want you to go forward. Okay. Let's go forward into the future. 10 years, 20 years. I like that kind of like, it's far enough out that you don't know. Like, it's kind of like if you go 1 year out, you can kind of picture it, but like 10 years, 20 years, wow. Like that's far. Some of you guys, if you look back 1 or 2 years, you would have no idea that you would have been right here, right now, running an Amazon business, all this stuff. Things can happen really fast, but let's go out far, like 10 years, 20 years out. Okay. I just want you to kind of see that future self. You might not have specifics yet. That's okay. We can develop those. But then from that place, from that future self, I want you to time travel back to today. And I just want you to ask yourself a couple questions. Okay. If that future self could come back, imagine how old, your kids are, how old you are, how like what has happened in that time frame. You could come back to even just this month. Is there anything you would do differently? Is there any conversations you would have differently? Any moments that you would lean into? Are there any ways you're showing up now that you would shift? You would start to shift. Maybe your future self is really healthy. That's one of your goals. Like, man, I just really want to improve my health. That's been one of Chelsea and I's goals this year. When I look back even a year from now, my future self was even healthier. Like we're fairly healthy, but we have room to improve. If I look back, it actually affects my decisions today. What about in your relationships? You look back, there's been big improvements. There's been big growth. There's been more depth. When you look back, what's like little steps you can take today, this week, this month to start taking steps towards that future self? Cool. I want you to get one specific thing. Okay. You've had some things come up. Like if there's one specific thing really jumping out at you, I want you to just write it down. Like this week, my future self would blank. This week, my future self would blank. Make it something you're setting yourself up to win. Don't make it impossible. But would that future self do something differently this week or do something to start moving towards that thing? I know some of you have big dreams or a big vision or big, like even calling on your life, but you haven't taken a step towards that thing. I mean, maybe Rainmakers is a big step towards that thing, but maybe there's something else that like you just been thinking about. Maybe there's like one little step you could take this week that would take you start taking you towards that powerful exercise, right? Both of these kind of are, it's a little woo-woo. You're kind of in your headspace, but you can do this anytime. You can, one, look back at the gain and look at where you've come from to get here. It shifts your state into this gratefulness, this gratitude. But number two, you can look forward and then kind of look back from that place and go, what did my future self do, right? Your future self cares a lot more about you than you do. Isn't that weird? Like, because they know, they have like the time wisdom, right? Like they know. I mean, how many of you have lost a loved one and you didn't know that was going to happen, right? But if you did know, you would look back and you would shift some things. We went really deep on some of these things in Inner Circle. We talked about a lot of that stuff. I want to give you that one little nugget from that retreat because I feel like that's really powerful for this mastermind group to just start leaning into. You guys already carry that how can I abundant mindset, but the more we can share stories around and give you concepts and frameworks to implement in your life, I feel like the more we can live into this, and the more we live into this, the more it affects the people around us. When we raise our kids and we show our family these things, it really can shift things. I mean, have you ever been at like a family gathering where people just complain or they just think about the negative stuff? Like, what if you did this? What if you did this for them? Hey, like if you guys could come back, let's say 20 years from now, that 20-year from now person could come back to this Thanksgiving dinner. Like, what do you guys think we would talk about? That'd be an interesting conversation to bring up during Thanksgiving. I bet that would shift some things. It kind of takes it away from like the junk that's the now stuff sometimes. And it starts you guys thinking like a visionary, thinking a little bit more bigger picture, having a long-term horizon. Yeah, I would encourage you guys to just take action on one of these things, whether it's putting in a reminder in your phone to do a gratefulness exercise like we did earlier, or doing this future self exercise every once in a while to look at your conversations, your relationships, your health, like these things that like if you looked at it from the future back, things would shift in the right direction. Cool. And if you want to go deeper on those topics, those two books, super powerful. Gap in the Game, Be Your Future Self Now. I listened to both of them on Audible, which is super easy to do. And I highly recommend them.
If you like some of this content that we typically only share with our year-long mastermind members, make sure to send us a DM on Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeItrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeItrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.